In this series, we've explored everything around customer acquisition analytics. Now, I want to share a real world example with you about how a multi billion dollar company used the CAC to CLV ratio, which I talked about in a previous clip, to reduce their customer acquisition costs. What is a good example of customer acquisition cost reduction? Well, in my podcast, The Customer Equity Accelerator, I have a fantastic interview with the Chief Analytics Officer of Electronic Arts, Zack Anderson. And here is the interview where he talks about how he used CAC to CLV to understand their performance and what he did about it.
That's
So
a
that,
perfect example of what we still see companies doing is what we always call it spray and pray. If I
yeah,
run enough volume, or I sometimes call it quantity marketing instead of quality
yeah,
marketing, it's really
yeah,
tough for marketers to make that shift. And I can appreciate the
yeah,
cultural change you must have been working against, because to suddenly
yeah.
say we're not going to market to this huge volume had to cause a lot of consternation internally, or people who are like, oh, is that going to work if you pull back?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, we did it piecemeal over a few years, backing off and changing. But I mean, it also meant, I think at our height of spending on marketing, we're spending 22% of revenue on marketing, which is a huge number. And, that year, talking about volume marketing, we bought a Super Bowl ad, an NFC playoff ad, an NBA Finals ad, a World Series ad.
Wow.
Like every major sporting event, we had an ad for something, and and a host of other high prominence ads. And then we were also spending on billboards and on print advertising, all these things that had like huge audiences, but really low targetability, really low ability to discriminate between customers that are really going to want to play this game versus aren't. And so that just generated that. We were a huge marketing machine, but the problem was we were just way overspending. At the time, frankly, we were overspending to make games that weren't so great. And marketing was getting expensive, primarily because I think we weren't investing as much of it into the games, which is a pretty bad cycle for a company. You've lost touch with your customers. You're overspending on marketing to try to move your product. And our financials were going down. Our stock price hit an all-time low of like $11. And we were in really dire straits. And what's really interesting to me is that all kind of happened right a couple years or maybe even a year and a half into the time where I had finally got my hands on this data, switched jobs, and I was like, I see what's going on. This is really clear to me. So I had this like weird insight at just the right time for the company to really start to dig in and do it. And so it's quite a harrowing and interesting time. So we shifted all of those people in marketing around and how we bought and exited our agency, built a bunch of new systems, and started bringing down marketing costs pretty dramatically. I think we cut it like 6 or 7 points in the first year.
Wow.
And eventually got it down below 12%, which is hundreds of millions of dollars being both dropped to the bottom line and able to be invested back in the product, which is where we should be investing our money.
Exactly.